Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 25 Joshua Pearce career mode. This is part 50 of the series. If you did miss the last episode, it was Oscar Piastri claiming the victory at the British Grand Prix with absolute dominance. He did have at the start, however, Lando Norris for company at the start, but after an engine failure on lap 3, Lando would not go on to finish the race, and Piastri was pretty much unchallenged apart from a small battle with Lewis Hamilton in the first stint of the race. Pierre Gasly, he takes a shock second position at Silverstone with a brilliant drive, taking advantage of all the carnage, and for Charles Leclerc, he took home another podium, but for my day, it was looking like maybe I'll be able to get a podium, but contact with Sonny Hayes right at the end ended that opportunity as the damage sustained from that was just too much to keep up with the pace. And in the end, Sonny was actually penalised for that one, allowing Gasly to claim that second position, and I missed out on taking that spot away back from Hayes by about 1.2 seconds, which was a little bit disappointing. But taking a look at the championship standings, Sonny Hayes leading the way by only 1 point to his teammate Oscar Piastri now, with Lando Norris moving up into third, 51 points behind, and myself now moving up to fifth, 7 points behind Charles Leclerc. Apex GP leads the Constructors' Championship by 115 points to McLaren. Ferrari are in third, only 12 points further behind, and we're going to jump straight to the chassis department because we've got a major weight reduction upgrade with a new engine cover, and since it's a major upgrade at 0% failure rate, I'm going to keep it at the standard development, which will come in just after this round, which is a little bit disappointing, but I would rather it be on the car before Monza. And now taking a look at the powertrain, because we've also got another major fuel efficiency upgrade with new fuel injection system by changing the way we direct the fuel into the car, and hopefully we can start underfueling the car a little bit more and decreasing the starting weight of the car, and at a standard development rate this one as well, because with another 0% failure rate, it's going to come in after this round but before Monza once again. And there is some weather on the horizon at the circuit which could play havoc on the results. The sprint race may have some rain towards the end, but the same with the race, but hopefully all should stay dry with the chance of rain is fairly low. And now taking a look at the bigger picture, we have made massive ground against Apex GP with the Constructors' Championship leaders not bringing any upgrades, and look at the jump for us, it's huge. We have pulled away from Ferrari and Red Bull Ford. Williams have now nearly brought themselves onto equal performance with Mercedes, and it's all so close in the mid-pack with both Audi Sport and Racing Bull Ford bringing upgrades to pull themselves once more slightly closer to the mid-pack. So let's go straight into sprint qualifying.
High-speed straights, heady elevation changes and dramatic corners. What is there not to love about today? It's qualifying day here at Spa-Francorchamps.
So in our only practice session that we've got, because it is a sprint race weekend, we had an oil pressure issue. So with all these new upgrades, there is, however, some teething issues that sometimes do arise, and hence why we had very limited running, which now means I'm on the back foot here for this qualifying session here for this sprint race at Spa-Francorchamps. And it is going to be a very difficult one because we're also only going to be on the medium compound tyres, and it was a wet practice session, mind you, as well. So not a lot learning to be done. I've got to get myself in the mindset now for a dry qualifying now. It is, and as the checkered flag falls in the first part, it is Sonny Hayes fastest by nearly 2 tenths to his teammate Oscar Piastri. Myself in third, 4 tenths behind. Lando Norris in fourth, a tenth further behind, but knocked out is Lance Stroll by a tenth. Liam Lawson, Max Verstappen, Gabriel Bortoleto, Carlos Sainz, and Esteban Ocon not making it to this next part of the session. And as you may see now by the tire tread that is on the car at the moment, it is wet. The heavens opened up in between SQ1 and SQ2, so that little bit of weather that we were talking about at the beginning of the video before heading into these sprint sessions has definitely come true, because this is going to be now a bit tricky because I was only just getting myself back into the rhythm of driving in the dry, and now I have to go back into the mindset of driving in the wet, and now with a dry setup as well. So the rear end, it doesn't have a lot of wing on it at the moment, which means it is very fishtaily on corner exits and through the faster corners as well. Very much so. It feels super unstable, but you can now see a bit of a dry line starting to form, which is going to play very helpful for myself. And now I'm going fastest in the session, but we've gone for back-to-back fast laps. So how is this lap going to go? We've gone purple in the first sector, but now as we head through these S sections, going into in the second sector, just skateboarding it, actually getting it stuck on the exit curb there. Luckily, though, I don't think we lost a massive amount of time, though, due to that because of the weather conditions, and we're able to gather it up fairly quickly. So now, heading into the bus stop chicane, it's only 2 corners left to remain for ourselves to try and get a pole position here, because you can see we've been knocked down to P2, just behind Alex Albon, and as we cross the line, we do go faster, so we've got ourselves a P1. It's SQ2 though, and we're 8/10 up on Alex Albon. We put in another brilliant lap as well. Oscar Piastri in third, nearly 2 seconds off the pace. Lando Norris in ninth, 4.5 seconds off the pace, but knocked out is Pierre Gasly by 6/10. Jack Doohan, Kimi Antonelli, Oliver Behrman makes it both the Haas Toyotas out. Isaac Hadjo and Zane Maloney don't make it to the shootout here for the sprint to work out sprint pole position for the sprint race, sorry. And it is going to be very interesting because now everyone's only got the one set of soft compound tyres. So how's this one going to play out? We've left it to the very death of this session to go in and for this lap. And you can see there was a purple final sector. And as the checkered flag falls, it's going to be our teammate Lando Norris on the sprint pole position by 2/10 ahead of Sonny Hayes. And Oscar Piastri missed out on the front row by 500 and lines up in third with myself alongside a further 2/10 behind.
Forget pit stops, forget fuel management. It's pedal to the metal all the way here as we get ready for today's sprint. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Sonny Hayes completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Piastri, Pearce, Charles Leclerc and Russell, Colapinto, Hamilton, Aaron and Alex Albon, Gasly, Doohan, Andrea Kimi Antonelli and Behrman, Hadja, Maloney, Lance Stroll and Liam Lawson, Verstappen, Bortoletto, Sainz and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out.
Okay, give me a quick radio check, please. Radio check. Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Second row of the grid, so not too bad of a starting spot. So hopefully we can get ourselves on the sprint podium, but it's the mediums with no pit stops for this sprint race. So let's get ready here for the first of 2 races here today at Spa-Francorchamps, and it is going to be go for the sprint race, and it is a very mediocre start for ourselves, nearly going into anti-stall the res with that low, but we'll swing it back to the inside to try and get ourselves that position back away from Charles Leclerc, who stole it away from ourselves in that starting sequence when we got it all bogged down. But now we run side by side, so do the 2 Apex cars, and it's side by side through Eau Rouge, now up through Radeon, and we managed to just hold on to it. The car got very light underneath me there, and we very nearly lost it and had a monumental shunt going through there, but managed to keep it pointing straight. We're back under attack now again from Charles Leclerc. We hang it around the outside as we head through Lacombs now, and we are now tucked in behind the 2 Apex GP cars. And so it's been a fantastic start for ourselves to be able to get ourselves into that P4 position after just how bad of a start that was for myself. So a very good stuff to be able to hold on to a 4th position. Our teammate, look at that, absolutely bolted ahead. He's already got nearly 2 seconds. It's 1.5 seconds as it stands at the moment between Norris and Oscar Piastri. And as we go on to lap 2 now, you can see nearly out to 2 seconds that gap is between Norris and now Sonny Hayes as he gets himself ahead of his teammate. Look at that, we're right there as well. So we've dropped the likes of Franco Colapinto, who's now got himself ahead of Charles Leclerc, and we are now battling it out to try and get a sprint podium from ourselves here, but we have to try and bide our time and wait for something to happen here, because these 2 guys are battling it out that hard that I can't actually find a way through. You can see I'm switching and swapping my current racing lines going through that section, and I just cannot get a way through, and then through the aero wash I just cannot get too much closer through the rest of the lap. But now I've got a really good run. Oscar Piastri, he's bolted. He's nearly outside of the DRS range. So now it's a straight side by side drag race down the Kemmel Straight. How is this one going to play out? We're late on the brakes, but we're not late enough because Hayes hangs it around the outside. We give him no room to work with, though. We squeeze him out, and that is us now up into third position here in this sprint race. Can we go any further? Because Oscar Piastri is only half a second in front of us, so we might be able to get ourselves another position here. I don't think we're going to be able to catch Lando. He's 2 seconds further up the road as well. As now George Russell gets himself up ahead of Franco Colapinto in that Red Bull Ford, and we have now closed that gap to Oscar Piastri. We're within the DRS range. It's only 3 tenths now between, and it is closing 2.5 tenths, 2 tenths, 1.5 tenths, and we go for the dive. Such a late braking maneuver, and we give him the squeeze. A little bit of contact as well for a good measure between. You can see the little puff of smoke on the bottom of the screen as we made contact. Mark thinks it's a beautiful move, but look at that. That is a lot of damage on the front of Oscar Piastri's car. It wasn't that big of a hit. It was barely a touch. And that has wiped out half of his front wing. That is very, very unlucky. You can see how big of a performance upset it is for himself now, because he's 2.5 seconds further behind myself. So that's nearly pretty much sealed out a McLaren 1-2 now, because with only 2 laps to go, because they would be crossing the line now to start lap 7. So 2 laps to go. 2.5 seconds between myself and Norris. I don't think I'm going to be able to catch that. And now Sonny Hayes is nearly 4 seconds further down the road behind me. As now this would be absolutely misery, because it doesn't take too much of a point swing now for Oscar Piastri to start falling away from the championship. Heading into this, remember, only 1 point behind the championship leader of his teammate Sonny Hayes, and now finds himself dead last in this sprint race. And look at this for a battle that's absolutely kicking off. It's between Colapinto, Albon, and Lewis Hamilton in that Ferrari. He goes down the inside of the Williams. Is he going to be able to make the move stick? He does, because he, like what I tried to do, squeezes Alex Albon. But this time, there was no contact between the two drivers. But Lando Norris, in the end, just eked out that lead a little bit further in those last 2 laps. He'll cross the line to claim the win for the sprint race. I will cross the line to take a second position to McLaren at 1-2 in the sprint race. So not a bad result at all, despite the contact with Oscar Piastri and the poor start from myself. So not a bad day in the office for the sprint race. And the rest of your top 8 is Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Franco Colapinto, Lewis Hamilton, Alex Albon, and it was Sonny Hayes who also rounded out the podium for that one. And after needing the repairs, Oscar Piastri could only manage P19, but now it's off to Grand Prix qualifying.
High-speed straights, heady elevation changes and dramatic corners. What is there not to love about today? It's qualifying day here at Spa-Francorchamps.
So we were able to get ourselves into SQ3 in the first one. So that's going to be the goal for Grand Prix qualifying here, and see if we can't better our starting position from the last time around. We need to get ourselves through these next 2 sessions of Q1 and Q2 as we now round out our final lap here in qualifying 1. This should be a pretty easy lap, and there we go. We have gone fastest, but we do go around for a second one just to really solidify our position, and then that should do us in this session, unless somewhere along the line, so it turns out our lap times have been absolutely dreadful and we fall down the order. But as the checkered flag drops, it's Piastri fastest in Q1 by 7 tenths to myself. Oscar Piastri's third, a further 4 tenths behind, and knocked out in the first part of qualifying. Liam Lawson by 10th, Kimi Antonelli, Lance Stroll, Zamboloni, Oliver Behrman, and Isaac Hadjar makes it both the Racing Bull Fords not in the second part of qualifying here. And on our first lap here, it's a fresh set of soft compound tyres for this one too. There's no wet weather conditions here in the middle part of qualifying this time around too. It's 2 purples and a green for ourselves, so it's looking pretty good. We've now fallen down to second position. It's a green first sector, purple middle sector. So how does this last sector go, and where does this put us on the pecking order? We have gone fastest in qualifying 2 by 2 tenths to Oscar Piastri, and then Russell is in third, a further half a second behind. Lando Norris in 7th, only 7 hundredths behind Russell. So it's insanely close inside the top 10, and knocked out in the middle part of qualifying is Franco Colapinto by 7 hundredths, and knocked out by his teammate Esteban Ocon as well for good measure. Paul Aaron ahead of Max Verstappen to make it both the Aston Martin Hondas out. Jack Doohan, Alex Albon, and Gabriel Bortoleto don't make it to the shootout here for qualifying, and it's just going to be the 1 lap for ourselves. We've only got the 1 set of soft compound tyres left in this final part of qualifying, so let's go for a bit of a hot lap here around this iconic circuit. So we've navigated turn 1 absolutely brilliantly, no real lockups there, and we're able to get it turned in just perfectly. And Eau Rouge and Radeon are the next challenges for ourselves, but in these cars, absolutely flat out. But as you may remember from the sprint race, we got really light going through then when we were side by side with another car, not on the ideal racing line. Look at that. It's purple in the first sector. And so we are absolutely flying here as we now head through into the second sector. It's Bruxelles ups next. And how is this one going to go? We try to keep it a little bit tight and we try and go for the second apex there, but we run just a little bit too wide. And now flick it to the left. And we are onto the downhill run now of the lap. And as we now head through, this is Pool 1. We need to make sure we have a really good run going into the final sector. We've only got a couple of corners left of the middle sector, and then we can find out how well this lap is truly shaping up. You can see on the mini-map there, we are very close to finding out the middle sector. And now we go through campus, and now it's going to be Stavelot next, and it's another purple sector. And so we are on for a really good lap here. We're 1.4 seconds up on Esteban Ocon's time so far. So we are well and truly going to find ourselves inside the top 5. But how far are we going to be able to find it? Because so far, the final sector has been our weakness. Our straight line speed hasn't been fantastic, but so far this lap has been absolutely beautiful, using all of the curb on the first part of the bus stop chicane. Keep it off the exit curb because we've been gathering a heap of wheel spin. Where does this put us? Pole position! Pole position, what a fantastic lap, and we are going to be stoked with that one. It's by 3/10 ahead of Oscar Piastri as well, so it's by a country mile. Sonny Hayes misses out on the front row by 800ths with Lando Norris alongside. It's a Ferrari third row lockout. Esteban Ocon and Carlos Sainz alongside, and Pierre Gasly and George Russell round out your top 10.
Welcome then, as we take a step back into the nostalgic golden days of motorsport. Spa is unashamedly a throwback, and all the better for it. Climbs, drops, sharp turns, chicanes, sweeping high-speed corners, all while taking in some of the most beautiful scenery that Europe has to offer. This might sound like a travel brochure, but it's not. It's a race day. Welcome along to Spa-Francorchamps for the Belgian Grand Prix. So here we are once again, ready to go racing through the Ardennes forest. 4.35 miles of long straights, fast corners, and massive elevation changes. It makes this not only one of the most exciting circuits on the calendar, but one that makes for some consistently high-quality racing as well. Simply put it, there's no place quite like it. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Joshua Pearce lines up on pole position, and Oscar Piastri completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Hayes, Hamilton, Charles Leclerc and Ocon, Sainz, Gasly, Russell and Franco Colapinto, Aaron, Doohan, Lando Norris and Albon, Bortoletto, Lawson, Andrea Kimi Antonelli and Lance Stroll, Maloney, Behrman, Hadjar and Max Verstappen completes the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. And alongside me in the commentary box today, a man who I always look up to, which is easier said than done, Anthony Davidson. Let's look at their season, and particularly against their teammate. Fair to say, they've got the better of them more often than not.
Yeah, they have, and it's, you know, rule number one, beat your teammate. They're the one that share the same equipment as you, and yes, the cars can vary and set up from race to race and depending on who has which style, but essentially they're your barometer, the yardstick. If you can beat them, that's the first job you have to do. And it looks like it's going their way, doesn't it? And they need to carry on this momentum, this energy through the rest of the season.
Okay, let's have a comms check, please. Radio check. Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
So it's going to be a pretty traditional strategy for ourselves here, starting on the mediums and then boxing around about lap 10 of the Grand Prix and going onto the hards. That will take us to the end of the Grand Prix as we now get ready to start from pole position for the Grand Prix here at Spa. And we are away into a much better start this time, maybe a little bit too much wheel spin compared to the bogging down in the sprint race. And we go unchallenged into turn 1. So that's a fantastic feeling to know that we've absolutely nailed the start and we've been able to defend from Oscar Piastri. Now slots himself into second position just behind me, but look at this, he's right behind me and he is really trying to challenge for this race lead. So how's this one going to play out? We go defensive. We have gone defensive. How is this one going to play out? Because we're now side by side I've gone for the inside line. Piastri tries to hang it around the outside, but he didn't quite get it to work. So we hold on for the lead of this Grand Prix just for now, ahead of one of the championship hopefuls to try and go back-to-back. Will Oscar Piastri? He's currently got the number 1 on his car, and he'll be looking to try and keep that one for another season and deny Sonny Hayes a championship, who has been leading it for some time now, as Sonny Hayes, the current championship leader. But it's an Apex 2-3 at the moment, with myself leading the 2 Ferraris in 4 and 5. Then it's Ocon, the Sainz, Gasly, and here comes Lando Norris to try and get himself further up. It wasn't a fantastic qualifying from himself, you must say. You know, he was looking like he could be well and truly up there, but in the end found himself on only the 2nd row. But he would be really wanting, knowing that I was able to get pole position. He should have been on the front row as well for the McLaren front row lockout. Unfortunately, not the way to go for this time around. We hold on to the race lead as we head around to start now lap 2 of this Grand Prix. But you can see with the timings, Piastri is right there, and this time around he has the power of DRS. So down this Kemmel straight, I'm really just defenseless. I try to hang around the outside, try the switchback move, but I just can't get it done. So we have to slot into 2nd position now and try and make sure that we try and stay with him here and we don't fall into the clutches of Sonny Hayes. And now onto lap 3, you can see on the timings there, Sonny Hayes has well and truly fallen out the DRS, and we are right there behind Oscar Piastri as well. We're just not close enough to send any sort of dive to get ourselves back into the race leaders. Now the 2 Ferraris battle it out. Lewis Hamilton now gets himself ahead of his teammate Charles Leclerc. So that's a swap of position between the 2 drivers. They now find themselves, well, still 4 and 5, just a switch positions between the 2. And we now get our first objective of the Grand Prix, which is trying to overtake Oscar Piastri, the race leader now, within the next 4 laps. So if we want to try and make it to lap 10, we can't be sticking behind Oscar for too much longer, because our tyres are just going to keep getting hotter and hotter, sticking in behind all of these exhaust fumes coming from Oscar Piastri. So we definitely need to try and get ourselves in front sooner rather than later. But now on the time, as you can see, falling outside of the DRS. And now look at this, because side by side through the up the hill section, and it is Carlos Sainz trying to get ahead of Pierre Gasly. It's 2 Mercedes powered cars that are trying to go at it. And remember, Alpine do now run the Mercedes power unit in this career mode, so it is going to be a drag race between these 2 same power units, and in the end the Williams gets the better of it, and Hamilton is still trying to hold against Charles Leclerc. So Leclerc not wanting to sit behind Lewis for too long, and wanting to try and get that position to back away from his teammate to get himself back into that 4th position, which will be crucial because there's a decent air gap in front of him. And so if he's able to do it, he'll get the clean air as well, and the benefit of that clean, cool air, which will help his tyre wear. And so he does get that move done now. Leclerc up into position number 4, and Ocon now gets himself ahead of our teammate Lando Norris. So Norris are falling back down to 7th position, but only give him a lap, and he's recharged the battery now and trying to go for another attack. He went to the outside last time. This time, he goes to the inside and he gets the move done into the braking zone, and now up into 6th position. He can try and close that 2 seconds that he lost to the 2 Ferraris and get himself into a top 5 fight now. As now we take a look further down the field to Oliver Behrman, because he's had a little bit of a poor race weekend so far, hasn't been able to score the odd point, and the Hasses so far this season have seen it pretty alright, and now his race weekend has just got a whole lot worse, with the engine going up in smokes very early on into the race as well. It's only lap 8 of the Grand Prix, so it's a bit of a reliability scare at the moment for Haas Toyota. They've had a few of those so far this season, as we now lose the objective. We failed it to try and overtake Oscar Piastri. So we haven't been able to get it done, but fair enough, because we've kind of dropped back out the DRS range, but it kind of also plays into the favour of what Mark was trying to get us to do, which is to try and create some clean air and keep the tyre temperatures down, to try and make sure that we can make it to that lap 10 mark, because a track like this, with all the fast flying sections as well, really eats away at the tyres. And you see now onto lap 10, look at my tyre wear. It wasn't even on the last lap, and it's now that thick orange color. It's getting close to the red area of tyre wear, so we definitely have to be careful to make sure that we can make it back to the pit stop lane, because we are very much in tyre puncture territory now, as now Oscar Piastri does jump it into the pit lane now, so he's going to come in for a stop. We're going to follow him in as well and see if we can't get ourselves any closer to him in this pit lane. The gap between ourselves was 2.3 seconds, and look at that. In that half a lap from the last time we saw the tyre wear, it's now gone red. So we were not going to make it around one more lap. So it's going to be crucial for ourselves to make sure that we do a good pit stop here to see if we can't challenge Oscar Piastri, and that does look a little bit closer actually to ourselves and Oscar. So how's this one going to play out? And we have to try and make sure we get ahead of this traffic. But now that I think about it, they're going to have the DRS on me. So this next Kemmel Straight is going to be crucial because I cannot let them get by me, or else I'm going to be stuck behind traffic on old medium compound tyres, and that's just going to allow Oscar Piastri to skip away. And look at that, we have well and truly halved the time between ourselves. And look at that, Colapinto. No, get out the battle, son. Get out the battle. He's hit us. He's gone straight at the right-hander and forced us to go off wide. We've had to take a corner cut, a warning, and now Mark is giving us the warning as well that we're on the brink of disqualification or even a penalty as well. So I've now got to play it really cool. I think that one time they used 2 of my 3 track cut warnings because I haven't had any previously. And you usually only get that message once you're at 2 out of 3 warnings. So that, I reckon, that one trip across the chicane there has used 2 of my warnings, which is absolutely horrific because I've now got 10 laps around here without trying to get another one. What happens if I end up in another battle and I have to do something like that once again, because it is just going to give me a penalty? So I am in dangerous territory now, as now Sonny Hayes comes in for his pit stop. So he was in the race lead. He inherited the race lead after myself and Piastri came into the lane. So he is now going to slot back into 3rd position. But look at that, 7 seconds behind us now as well. So we're very comfortably in 2nd position, but 2 seconds away from Oscar. And now Mark wants us to try and close that gap by putting in a nice quick lap time. So we're going to put in the effort now. We're going to use up a little bit of these tyres, but I have to be careful as well because we barely made it to our pit stop window. So got to make sure I don't use too much of the tyre. And look at that, well and truly smashed it. We just did a 1:43.9. The lap time they wanted was only a 1:50.2. So well and truly got the pace at the moment, but that wasn't even enough to really close in on Oscar Piastri too much. As now my teammate Lando Norris is looking to try and get himself inside this top 5. He has to make the move on the Ferrari. There's contact in the braking zone heading into the S's, and look at that, he makes it through into the top 5 now, into 5th position ahead of Lewis Hamilton. He splits the 2 Ferraris and he's got over 3 seconds now to find if he wants to catch up to Charles Leclerc. So it's going to be a very crucial couple of laps for him to try and make it inside the top 4. Now as Lance Stroll goes for a bit of a spin at the final corner, picked up the throttle too early. Now he's reversed in front of the other cars, and they're having to come to a stop to make sure that they do not get collected by the stationary Alpine, and that is enough to bring out the red flag here for the FIA. So they've deemed it too dangerous of a situation, maybe Stroll unable to get a flick spin going. But now, for our strategy, it reckons that we can go onto hards, a fresh set of hards, but I reckon we might be able to use some mediums or a soft set of tyres, but I don't have any. I have got none. The only tyres I have to go is a set of hards. So this is going to be interesting because, look, oh no, everyone else around me is on soft compound tyres, and so they're going to get the jump on me. I have got nothing off the start of this Grand Prix, and now we touch the grass in the braking zone. We've run wide. We've lost the position to our teammate. Our teammate now finds himself on the podium. He was still trying to chase down the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc to get himself up into the top 4. Now finds himself into the podium position. So Lando Norris has had a fantastic red flag period to get himself now up onto a podium, but I do not want that to happen. I've got a chance here to get my first podium of the season, so we tuck into the slipstream. We're going to hang it around the outside, and our teammate makes contact with us. We've copped a little bit of damage on the floor and the underbody, so we're going to be a little bit wounded now for the rest of the race. And there we go, Mark confirming it's underbody damage now from our teammate. So thanks, Lando, for that. Well, I was giving you the squeeze, but you didn't have to drive into the side of me for that one. So we find ourselves back into the podium, but at the cost of some damage, thanks to Lando Norris, as now the field is all bunched up behind us. George Russell currently rounding out your top 10 as we head into the final stages of the Grand Prix. And in these final stages, look at that, the 2 Apex GP cars have absolutely bolted ahead. There's 3 seconds between the second of the Apex GP cars and myself. So my only hope now is that this red flag has caused us to have a bit of a sprint to the end. The sprint to the end is 7 laps. The sprint race was only 8 laps. So I am very much hoping that their tyres are going to start falling off because the mediums were starting to fall off towards the end of the sprint race. So I know it's a lap shorter, but I'm hoping that the Apex GP cars will find themselves in a splot of trouble with their tyre choice. And maybe these hard compound tyres aren't going to be a bad thing overall, and that we can start catching up to them in the final couple of laps of the Grand Prix and see if we can't go for a race win. You know, it's not out of the question as of yet. All it takes is for them to come together in the final portion of the race, and only with 4 tenths between them, you know, they could very easily go for a dive and something could happen between them. So do not discount us. And you can see, since I last checked, I've now gained over a second, you know, to them as well. The gap now 1.8 seconds between myself and Oscar Piastri, and they've stopped battling as well. So it's not like that they're battling and that's why I'm gaining the time. I'm genuinely gaining the time on them. So I could be very much within a shout of trying to get a position here from either of the Apex GP cars, and even more if they start battling, as this battle has been going on for some time now. It's Charles Leclerc versus Lando Norris. So Norris also possibly carrying a little bit of damage. He now finds himself getting overtaken by Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, as also now Kimi Antonelli, unfortunately out of the race in the Mercedes, having some sort of technical dramas, and pulls himself off of the circuit just before the entry to Eau Rouge. So it's not a great day for the Mercedes team, as they now find themselves scoring very little points and starting the last lap of the Grand Prix. Now, you look at that, we have caught right up to the back of the 2 Apex GP cars, but is it too little too late? Because now we've only got this straight to go through Blanchimont as well. We usually get a pretty good run, and look at that, I'm on the button, I'm pushing the ERS, I'm trying to get as close as I can to Oscar Piastri. I can't find a way through, heading through Blanchimont, and so where am I going to find the move? Around the outside into the bus stop chicane. Can I get the move done? I give him the squeeze on the Apex, because this time around I'm not going to get any, well, I could get damage, but it's not going to matter because we crossed the line. Sonny Hayes will take the race win, but we finally, we get ourselves a podium in this season, and we had to work for that one too.
And it's the checkered flag and the win today for Sonny Hayes.
Well, another race victory today, and you can clearly see they're starting to believe in themselves more and more. You get to a stage, Crofty, where you become very hard to beat as a driver when you keep putting in performances like this one.
From lights out to the checkered flag, each and every driver has this moment in the back of their mind. Now it's time for their celebrations. Our podium, it awaits.
So Sonny Hayes is your victor for the Belgian Grand Prix. Barely. He was very lucky with the red flag, allowing him to catch back up and took advantage. Finally, I got myself a podium this season, and it was very nearly a win, but still claimed second with the last lap overtake. And honestly, that red flag kind of ruined my race, because we were gaining slowly on Oscar Piastri, and then only had hard tyres left when everyone else still had another set of soft compound tyres, and I only had the hard. So maybe one more lap and we could have gone for a race win. But the rest of your top 10 is Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Esteban Ocon, Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly, and Franco Colapinto, with Behrman and Antonelli non-finishes. And for the championship, Hayes extends his driver's championship lead by 17 points to his teammate Oscar Piastri. Norris is in third, 48 points further behind, and myself in fourth, 5 points further behind my teammate. Apex GP leads the Constructors' Championship by 118 points to McLaren. Ferrari sit third, 28 points further behind. And for my driver ratings, everything gains points except for the experience, for my overall rating to now increase to level 96, and for the driver recognition, it remains at 53%. And that is going to be all for this episode. So if you did enjoy it, please make sure to like and subscribe. And for the next one, we head to the Temple of Speed for the Italian Grand Prix. I'll see you then.